In this section, section 3.1, we're going to be talking about number systems. And in our number systems, we have numerals, and those numerals are just actually symbols that are written for digits, just written symbols. So we use 0 through 9. So here are some other examples of number systems. The Babylonian, Egyptian, Mayan, you can look through and see the other number systems. Notice where ours are, 0 through 9, and then they put 10 in there. So is ours called the American number system? Nope. It's actually called the Hindu Arabic system because it was developed by Hindus and transported to Europe by the Arabs. So a number system is actually just a collection of symbols and properties that are agreed upon to systematically represent numbers. So there has to be a system to it. So we're in America, so why do we need to learn about all these other systems? Well, bilingual folks, they understand English better than I do, okay? Because I don't know another language. So I would understand how English is put together better if I had something to compare it to. And so in this section, we're not only going to study our system, but we're going to study other systems so that we can compare it to our system and know the Hindu Arabic system better. So one system is called the tally numeration system. You've probably used this system before. If we were going to count how many coins were in Bertha's wallet, you can see we've got, these are go by 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20. We got 22 pennies and 11 nickels and 6 dimes and some quarters. So the tally system requires many symbols. Think if Bertha had 365 pennies in her purse. It's going to be really hard to do that with the tally system. So when the tally marks get really long, it's just hard to read as they become bigger. Okay, so that's one system, the tally system. Another is the Roman numeral system. So we're going to talk a little bit about Roman numeral system. So when they invented the Roman numeral system, obviously Romans did that, they were introducing the additive, adding and subtracting properties, okay? So there's several things you need to know about Roman numerals. They don't repeat those symbols any more than 3 times, okay? So you're never going to have the same symbol more than 3 times in a row, okay? And if you place a bar over a symbol, it means you are going to multiply by 1,000. So V with a bar over it, you may remember that the V stands for 5. So that's V times 1,000. So that's 5,000. Here are some other very common things that are used. So we have the Roman numeral 1. We've got 5. There's our 10. Let's see, there's our 10. It's right there. And then we've got our 50. And you may remember that if you're a football fan. I remember when we had the Super Bowl 50, it was just an L, and people were like, what is that L? Super Bowl 50. C is for century, okay? And so that helps me. I think of century is 100, every 100 years. D is for 500, and then millennials, it's 1,000. So those are the main, just like we use 0 through 9, those are the symbols that they use. It's sometimes hard to remember the ones we're not familiar with. Most of us are semi-familiar with these guys right here, but the other ones, not so much. So I think it helps if you do a little mnemonic to remember these. Extra large cats drink milk. These are some that my students came up with. So the X stands for 10, the L for large, for L, stands for 50, 100 is the C, 500 is D for drink, and 1,000 for milk. So extra large cats drink milk. That helps you keep them in order. Here's another one. Extra long commercials depress me. That was one of my favorites, one of my students came up with. So anyway, so you're going to need to know those. Um, Also, it's really important to realize that if you have only one lesser number symbol can be to the left of a greater number symbol. So what that means, and you're used to seeing this probably. So that 1 in front of the 5 means I'm going to subtract it. So you have that 1 in front of the 5. So I'm going to subtract 1 from 5. This also means, remember I said you can only have one lesser, so you can't do this and make it equal 3. That doesn't, because see how you have 2 lesser symbols? So that is not 3. 3 is 3 ones, because you can have 3 in a row, if you remember. So these are some that you're going to want to memorize, okay? Again, some of these you're going to know. 4 and 9, you probably know, at least maybe 4 already. But this one, extra large, the XL, that X is 10 and the L is 50. So the 10 is less than 50, so we're going to subtract. So that's 40. And this one, we're going to take that X, that's 10. So we're going to take that 10 away from 100, so that's 90. The C is a century, so that's 100, and the D was 500, so we're going to subtract those. And also the C is smaller than the M, so that's 1,000 minus 100, so that's 900. So these guys you're going to want to memorize. I really thought this was pretty cool. I can't remember how to write 51, 6, and 500 in Roman numerals. I'm livid. So there's our here's our 51 right there. Here's our 6, and there's our 500. So I'm livid. All right. So let's practice writing these Roman numerals in Hindu Arabic as a Hindu Arabic number. That means the normal, our base 10 number. Okay. So you're going to start by looking at the left. Okay. So the left 2, notice there's 2 C's. Both of those C, remember century. So that's 200. Then right beside that is an XL. So that's this guy right here, XL. So that's our 40. Okay. And then what's next? We've got a 1 and an X. Notice the 1 is less than the X, so we're going to subtract. So that's going to be 9. So we just add all those together. We get 249. So the next one, and you're going to practice, you can practice these in class as well. So we've got 3 C's together. So C's 100, so that's 300. We got 2 X's together, so that's 20. And then we got a 5, a V, and 8. Notice that those 3 come after the 5, so we add them. So 300 and 208, that's going to give me 328. Let's do 2 more fairly quickly. So that X and the C, notice the C is a century, that's 100. So we're subtracting those. So that's 90. And then we've got that 1, so that's just going to be 91. And last one, we got that D with the bar over it. Now remember, the D is 500, and then we put a bar over it, so we're going to multiply it by 1,000. So that's 500,000. All right, and then the next one is just a C with 100, and the L and the 1, those we're going to add together. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The L, the L is going to be 50, and then the 1 is less than that X, so we're actually going to subtract those. So that gives me 9. So if we put all that together, 500,159. Okay, so you should be able to go from Roman numerals to base 10 or Hindu Arabic numerals. And now we're going to go backwards. Okay, so we got our Roman numeral. We want to write this in Roman numerals. So that 1,000 is going to be an M for millennial. Okay, we need 600. Okay, you can't write C 6 times. Okay, because you can't have more than 3. So the 600 is, we're going to have to add 500 and 100. Then 30 is going to be 3 X's and then our 4. So we put it all together, and that's what you get. Now, sometimes you will see these bars go over the top and over the bottom. You don't have to do that. You don't have to put the bars over them. You can if you want to, as long as I can read it on your test. But it's not, but again, I want you to remember that everything you do in this class is not just for you, it's for your future students. So that might be hard for them, for some students, to put that bar over the top of all of them, and then you still be able to read it as their teacher. So it's up to you whether you want them to use the bar. Anyway, okay, so we've got 5,000. So we're going to do a V, which is 5, with the 1,000 bar. 200. So you can put 2 hundreds, and remember, hundreds are C's, so 2 hundreds. Then we need 80. So we've got a 50, and we're going to add 3 X's to it. So we stick all that together. Notice you have to be very careful where that bar ends. If it goes over anything else, it's gonna be incorrect, because it's gonna make it a bigger number than it needs to be. All right, almost done. We've got 80. So that's our 500. Our 50 plus our 30, and then our 8. 5 and an 8. So you might ask me, Miss Kitts, when am I ever going to use Roman numerals? I mean, we don't use that anymore. At a Clemson game. Yes, I was at a Clemson game, and I was getting getting a Coke and some popcorn, and this lady was standing there, and I said, "Can I please take a picture?" And she looked at me kind of weird. And I said, "It's for educational purposes." Anyway, so this was her anniversary date. So you can see that this actually has, she put little decimals in there, which they don't really do in Roman numerals. So the tattoo artist got a little creative. But that's a 10, and that's a what? 10 and a 17, and this is 2, so that's 2,000, and what, XV, so that's what, 16? So this lady got married October 17th, 2016. Anyway, so you never know when this Roman numeral stuff is going to come in handy. All right. So let's do some more talking about Hindu Arabic, okay, our Roman numeral system. So let's talk about our properties. Okay, so all the numbers that you are ever going to write in the Hindu Arabic system are going to be made up of these numbers, 0 through 9. Okay. Now, place value is based on the powers of 10, where it goes. Place value. So you have, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. What that means is we have a base 10 system. It's also called the decimal system. So right here, you're going to have your ones, and then once you get 10 ones, you're going to be over in the tens. Once you get 10 tens, you're going to be over in the hundreds. So it's based on 10. So place value is going to assign a value to a digit based on where it is placed in the number. Okay, so if I moved this 5 over here to the hundreds, it's still going to be a 5, but now it's going to be 500. Okay, so place value, location. That's real estate. Place value is something totally different. And here's another one I like. Am I a 2, a 20, a 200, 2,000? If I only knew my place. Identity crisis. Okay, so we're going to talk about expanded form. So expanded form is when you are going to use exponents to write out your number. Okay, so that first example right there, for those of you that are in the lower grades, you may start off by having them write that down. So the 6 is in the thousands place, so it's 6,000. And the 5 is in the hundreds place, so it is 500. The 4 is in the tens place, so it's 40. And then the 3 is in the ones, so it's just 3. Okay, so you may start off by doing that, but you may eventually get to this. Okay, why in the world would you do that? It looks more complicated than this. Okay, once they start learning exponential numbers, you can use that to relate it to what they already know. So that's one way you could introduce it. But also, we are going to eventually not be in base 10. So we're going to use this. Okay, so I want to make sure that you can write every number and take it from here to this big long one. So what is this 10 to the third? Remember, 10 to the third, that means that exponent tells you how many zeros it has. So that's in the thousands place. That's going to be in the hundreds place. That's going to be in the tens place. And this, it looks like, what is the zero? Anything to the zero power is 1. And we're going to talk more about that later. But for right now, just know, we'll talk about why later. Just for right now, know that 10 to the 0 or anything to the 0 is just 1. Okay, so that's how we know what place to put it in. All right, so let's write this next one. This one right here. We're going to write it in expanded form. So we have that 1. That's this one. That 1 is in the 10,000s place. So if all these other numbers underneath it were zeros, okay, then we would have 10,000. So that's 1 times 10 to the 4th. Okay. Then we're going to add the 2. Notice that's in the thousands place. So it has 10 to the 3rd. Then we've got 3 in the hundreds place. And we've got 4 in the tens place. Then we got 5 in the ones place. One thing I want you to notice is this right here. These are attached by addition. Okay, I've had students in the past attach it by multiplication. That's a big difference between saying I'm gonna give you $100 and then I'm gonna give you 5 more versus 100 times 5. Okay, so you need to make sure not only you but your students know that we're gonna put a plus sign in between those. So just remember that every numeral, every digit is written using 10 to some exponent. Okay, so 10 is the base of the exponent. That's why it's called the base 10 system. So we've got our thousands place, our hundreds place, our tens place, our ones place, and we might go higher. And for example, this one right here, 7 times 10 to the 5th. Okay, so I want you to be able to go from a regular number. Okay, so let's go from our regular number to this expanded form. Now we're going to go from the expanded form back to our regular base 10 number. Okay, so there is a trick to doing this. So here is the trick for your students, not just you, but your students. So first thing you're going to do is you are going to put the 7, that 7, it's 10 to the 5th. So you're going to count. You're going to put, if it's 10 to the 5th, you're going to have a 10 to the 0 spot, 10 to the 1st, 10 to the 2nd, 10 to the 3rd, 10 to the 4th, and 10 to the 5th. Okay, so if you have 10 to the 5th is your highest exponent, you're going to have 6 blanks. And that's the first thing you need to do is write those answers, write those blanks down, okay? And then you put the 7 in the 10 to the 5th spot. Then you put the 4 in the 10 to the 3rd, and then you put the 2 in the units. And then we're going to come back and add another zeros, okay? So we're going to do the same thing. You see 6, 10 to the 6th right here. 10 to the 6th. So we're going to have 7 of these because you've got to have, you've got to have this one right here, which is your 1. Okay. Oh, I just erased all that. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. So let's work it. So we've got 5 is in the 10 to the 6th. It helps me to do this. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It helps me to do that underneath. So then I know the 2 goes where it's 10 to the 1st. So there's my 2. And this one goes where it's 10 to the 0. So that goes right here. Excuse me. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my zeros and fill in those spots. Okay. So your tricks are to make these blanks, zeros, put in your numbers, and then put in the zeros. Okay. All right, and I'm going to need you to, that's where these went, I'm going to need you to actually watch this video, okay, to use base 10 blocks. You're going to be using base 10 blocks in the classroom. I do not have time to teach you how to use these manipulatives in the classroom. So I'm going to have you watch videos. We've got lots of manipulatives. Okay, I've got a whole cart full of manipulatives. So I want you to watch these videos that are in your notes. Okay, and you may have to, if you can't just click on them, then just go to the YouTube and find that. So you need to watch these before you come to class. Okay, so you will see these in all of your notes. I'm going to have videos within the video that you need to watch. I won't always call attention to it in class, especially in chapter 4, 5, and 6. I don't even think I talk about them at all. So, but if they're in your notes, you need to watch them and be ready to use those manipulatives in class. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys watch this video and fill in the base 10, fill in those little those answer blanks after you watch that video. All right, so but the main thing you need to know, because I guess we actually am getting ready to use these, so I'll go ahead and sort of tell you these things, but I still want you to watch this video to see how to add, subtract, and stuff with this. So a unit is just one of just one little block. Okay, this is called a rod or a long, and I do it interchangeably. And if you count them, there's 10. There's 10 there, and you're gonna actually physically work with these in class. This one is called a flat, and it has 100 units. And then this one is called a block. Okay, sometimes I call it a cube, but it's a block, and it's 1,000 units. Okay, but this video is going to actually demonstrate, as you can see with the screenshot, it's going to demonstrate how to actually use these. Okay, so when I was in school, and probably when you were in school, they would talk about carrying your one. We're going to carry the one. I had no idea what that meant. I just knew I put a one up there. Okay, they don't talk about that in the classroom anymore. If you were in an elementary classroom now, you would never hear carry the one. Instead, you're going to hear regroup, or you'll hear trade, or they'll actually call it regroup and trade the blocks. And so that's what we are going to do. Okay. I'm going to actually just start with this one instead of the one up there, since I already have some stuff written. Okay, so we're going to start off, excuse me, we're going to start off with 8 flats, excuse me, 8 flats, 14 longs or rods, and 16 units. So we may do this in class, but so you would actually have those flats, the rods, and the 16 units. So we want to rewrite this using the fewest blocks possible. Okay, so we want to write it in Hindu Arabic to represent that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go straight over here to our 16. Okay, now when we go to 16, notice we have 10. 16 has a 10 in it. So I'm going to take these 10 right here, cross them out, and I'm going to regroup them, and I'm going to trade it for a rod. So those 10 I would move to the side, and instead I would replace it with a rod. Okay. So what do we have left? We've got 6? We got 6 units left. Okay. And you may have, like if you had, 26 units, then you would have 2 sets of these, and you would have 2 rods over there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here. I'll do a different color. So now we're going to take these 10 rods and do the exact same thing. We're going to get rid of those, and we're going to trade it for a flat, because that is actually 100, right? 10 tens is 100. So we're going to trade it for a flat. So how many do we have left after we've already traded? We have 5? Yeah, we have 5 down there. And then for our flats, we actually have, let's see if I've got some more colors in here. Thought I had some more colors. Maybe not. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 flats, and I can't trade those out. So we have a 9, a 5, and a 6. So that means our number is 956. Okay, so so let's look over here. We have, so let's say I didn't actually have any manipulatives. Okay, so now we're going to go from manipulatives to actually writing it down. Okay, so we're going a little more abstract for our students. Okay, so again, we're going to start at our 16 units and we're going to subtract 10. That's what we did in red, right? Let me do that. That's what we did in red over there. And we had 6 units left. Now we didn't just subtract that, right? We added 1. So that's my other thing that I did in red. Okay. So now I'm going to add those together and I have 15. That's too many. So now I'm going to subtract my 10. Okay, so that's what I did in green. Okay, and then that left us with 5. We have 5 longs. But that's not all we did, right? We had to add our 10. So we're going to add a flat. So that's what we did in green. That's that green box over there. And then we counted it up. We have 9. So if I ask you to show me how to do this in sort of a chart, it's more like a chart rather than actually drawing it. I may ask you to draw it on a test, or I may actually ask you to write it like this on a test. Okay, so that's more like a chart. This is more like a chart. Okay, whew, you cannot even read that. I am so sorry. Try that again. Okay, so this is more like a chart method, and this is the actual using your base 10. Okay, so we're going to do that again. Okay, I'm going to try another one. So we have 9 flats, 13 longs, and 8 units. Okay, so let's do what I did up there. I'm going to take, oh, I don't notice I can't regroup any of my units. I literally have 8 units. Okay, so I got 8 units. I don't have to regroup at all. But this one, I've got 10. Let's see if I can get, there's my 10. So I can regroup that and put a box. Okay, so I exchanged it for a flat. And I have, what, 3 left here? And now, oh, now look at this. I actually have, how many boxes do I have there? Count them. I have 10 boxes. So I'm now going to, I'll do it in black. So I'm going to take those, cross it out, and I'm going to draw in a cube. Okay. So that's my cube. And so once I regrouped and I exchange, once I trade, how many flats am I going to have? I'm not going to have any flats, but I am going to have 1 cube. So if I put all those together, that's going to be, whoops, I erased 1 as I put it up. Okay, so that's 1,038. Okay, let's see. Okay, so with this one, notice I don't have enough flats in my box. In other words, I would have done this in class. Okay, we are going to do some of this in class. But when I go to my box, I only have 10 or 11 flats. I don't have 14 flats. So I don't have the option of working it with actual manipulatives. Now, you could work it the way I've been doing it with drawing it. And you would just draw 14 flats and 7 longs and whatever. But this is how you get your students to go from the the concrete to abstract. You make it so that the concrete breaks down. You just don't have enough. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. We've got 14 flats. Oh, I've cheated. I'm showing you that we're eventually adding. I've got 14 flats, 7 longs, and 10 units. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to subtract my 10 units. I'm going to trade out the units for 1 long. And when I do that, I just have 6 units left, but I can't forget to add them, okay? If that makes sense. So I'm going to I took that away, and whenever you take away 10, you've got to add 1 long on the other side, okay? We're actually trading. You can't just subtract and then not add over here. So that happens at the same time. Anyway, so then I add these, and I have 8. So I know that I have 2 units. I've got 8 longs, okay? I don't need to subtract but I could have. If I had wound up with 11 longs, then I would be subtracting again. Anyway, so I didn't have to add anything. So so now I have 14 flats. I'm going to take my 10 away, okay? And when I do that, then I've got to add, I think I did that in black, I think. So we're going to subtract 10, and we're going to have, I've got to add 1, and it's not a flat, it's a cube now, right? From flats, we go to cubes. So we got to add 1 cube, okay? So we have the 1, and then the 4, the 8, and the 2. So my answer is going to be 1,482. All right, I'll try and do these quickly, okay? Hopefully you're starting to get the gist of it. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to start here. We got 13 flats, 9 longs, 25 units. I do not want to have to take out 25 units, and we don't even have 13 longs in our boxes. But 25 units means I'm going to take out 2 10s. Does that make sense? Because I've got 2. If I have 25, I can take 10 and trade it for 1 rod, and take 10 more and trade it for the other rod, and I'll have 5 units left. So I've got 5 units left. Now, whenever I do that, whenever you subtract, you're going to have to add over here. You're going to add your longs, or you could just put +2 if you want to. Anyway, so now I have 11 longs. It's too many. I've got more than 10, so I'm going to subtract my long. Okay, now remember, whenever you subtract, that means you are trading. You're trading those 10 longs for 1 of the flats. Okay, and I think I was doing that in green, so let me do it in green. So I'm going to subtract those 10, and that adds 1. Okay, so then I've got 14. So I need to trade out 10 of those flats for what? We got to trade it out for a cube, right? For 1 block. Oh, I told you I was going to call it a cube. Anyway, it's called a block, but I sometimes call them cubes. So now we just see what we have left. We've got a 1, a 4, a 1, and a 5. So there's our final answer. Last one, 21 flats. We absolutely do not have 21 flats in our box. We don't have, that's just a lot. It would take a long time for your students to even if they had those units. Anyway, so I've got 16 units. Notice I'm always starting at the units. I don't start over here, okay? I always start with your units. So I'm going to trade out 10 of those 16 for a long. So I'm going to subtract 10 on my chart, which will leave me with 6. At the same time that I subtract 10 is when I'm going to add my 1. Okay? So I got 6 there, and I add. Now we got 18. Well, that's more than 10. So I'm going to subtract that 10. Okay? And when I do that, I've got to add it over here, right? So I added 1. So that's over here. So I added 1 flat. And by adding, I really just traded. I traded those 10 longs for 1 flat. Now I got 22 flats, which I can take out 10 at a time. So I'm going to take 10 at a time, and notice I have 2 sets. So I'm actually going to be adding 2 blocks. Okay, so I'm left with an answer of 2,286. All right, so I'm going to stop this one, and we will you'll have another video or two to finish off this section.